Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 18 Minutes with 180 Markets. Well, friends, let's get right into it. What if I were to tell you that there is a company out there that is helping cure people's lives? But not only that, we as investors can also help support it and create huge shareholder value. And on top of all that, there is fantastic news literally hot off the presses because the company just had outstanding phase 1 results. Well, if you're interested in that, join us today because we are with Michael Thurn, CEO of Pharmaust, because Pharmaust has just had all that I described. And with that, Michael, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation this morning. Yes, no, we did release our phase 1 study results yesterday, and they're rather compelling. They're rather compelling from the point of view that, like most phase 1 studies, you start off by looking at safety and tolerability. But a lot of phase 1 studies also try to get a hint of efficacy. And that's one of the encouraging signals that we got out of this phase 1 study, which was a good signal, a very strong signal to show that monopentel, our drug, has the potential to slow down the progression of motor neuron disease.
Right. And for people that don't know out there, motor neuron disease, and for our Northern Hemisphere viewers, ALS, also very well known, Lou Gehrig's disease.
True.
Can you just tell us a little bit about it and also specifically how, unfortunately, there is no current cure?
Correct, yes. So motor neuron disease or ALS is a very debilitating disease. One of the statistics around motor neuron disease is that from diagnosis, the average life expectancy for someone with motor neuron disease is just over 2 years. So incredibly short period of survival for these patients from diagnosis. It all originates from issues with the motor neuron disease, motor neurons. And motor neurons are the important neurons that provide you with motor movement. So the ability to pick up a cup, the ability to breathe, the ability to roll over in bed, the ability to walk. So it's a disease that essentially attacks all parts of the body because that motor function from your motor neurons are so important for life. So the way that our drug works is by targeting the very cause of motor neuron disease. And the cause is all around the buildup of a toxic protein within those motor neurons that leads to the degeneration of those motor neurons. And that pathology, as we call it, is all attributable to a protein called TDP-43. Now, the toxic buildup of protein is not uncommon in neurodegenerative diseases. So one of the important and very exciting aspects about the phase 1 study that we conducted to show that we may be in a position to offer considerable benefit to patients with motor neuron disease, ALS, is that the pathology, the mechanism of action that we're using to clear up this toxic buildup of protein could be applicable to other neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's disease, Huntington's disease, Parkinson's disease. That's for me is where the real excitement lies.
Right. And as I said, the phase 1 results, can you just give us a high level? What did they show as far as expectancy length? What was the size of the study? And then we'll obviously get into next steps.
Yeah, sure. So it was I'll caveat, these results are all based on a very small patient population. But I'll also caveat in saying that we were able to follow this small patient population of 12 for out to 13 months. So they've been on the drug for 13 months. And that's significant in itself, significant from the point of view that we know from studies that have been conducted that you would expect about a third of those patients to have unfortunately passed away through that 12 months. We saw no deaths, incredible result. And in fact, we've we've also published or put out a press release with regards to those survival numbers. And our statistician team, a very highly regarded statistician group in the US called Berry Consultants, ran the numbers on the likelihood that we would see no one passing away in that 12-month period. And the number that came back, or the chance, was 1 in 1,000. So that in itself gave us a lot of encouragement around the readout from our phase 1 study. And that phase 1 study, like most phase 1 studies, is really to confirm the safety and tolerability of the treatment. And we passed that with flying colors. Passed it in that those 12 patients been on drug for over 12 months, we only saw 3 adverse events that were possibly related to the study drug, which is an incredible result and tells you how safe this drug is. The other aspect was we wanted to know that the drug was reaching the target. And in this case, the target is the motor neurons in the spinal cord and the brain. And we were able to show that our drug, when you take it orally, it crosses the gut wall, goes into the blood, and then finds its way into the cerebral spinal fluid. The cerebral spinal fluid obviously is the compartment, is the fluid that surrounds the brain and the spinal cord. So we had direct evidence that our drug was making it to its target. The other aspect was that from the data that we collected around how much the drug slows the rate of progression, we saw a dose response. So we saw, we saw a very interesting dose response in that people that were on the low dose, while they were still getting benefit, when you compared it back to historical controls, so there's a big database out there called the PROACT database. And that PROACT database is a database that contains data from over 8,000 people or patients with motor neuron disease. And that data, from that database, we compared it to our patients. And what it showed was, compared to someone that wasn't on drug from that historical database, we were able, at the low dose, slow their rate of progression in our patients by 23%. When we looked at the high dose, we were able to see a very large number, a large number that I guess kind of surprised everyone from the point of view that it was over 50%. So in the individuals that were receiving the high dose of Montel, we were able to slow the rate of progression by 58%. Now, this wasn't over a week. It wasn't over a month. It wasn't over 2 months. This was over an 8-month period. We were able to slow the progression of motor neuron disease by 58%. So what does that mean?
Yeah, that was the second cohort. Is that correct?
That's right. So the second cohort had the higher dose. So what does that mean in terms of extending the life expectancy of a patient? From comparing our data back to the literature, looking at a study that was conducted, we can see that by having an impact, by slowing that rate, by changing that slope of decline, that we potentially have the ability to prolong a patient's life expectancy from anywhere from 13 months out to 57 months, which is a long period of time, and there's a huge range there. And that huge range is generated by, it's totally dependent upon when the patient starts the treatment and their severity, the rate of decline, how fast they're deteriorating with motor neuron disease. So everyone with motor neuron disease, as I said, the average is life expectancy is over two years, but there's a good distribution. Some people from diagnosis, they'll die within 4 to 5 to 6 months. Others will take quite a lot longer than 2 years. So hence, depending upon when you start treatment will dictate essentially how long life expectancy you may be able to receive from taking monopental.
Right.
Exciting results.
Absolutely. And now it's all about the path forward. And there's a pretty short path forward here, especially for a potential blockbuster drug. Michael, can you just talk about the phase 2, phase 3 in the next 12 months?
Yeah, exciting times for Pharmaust, and we know it's exciting times because we've been in front of the FDA. So we went to the FDA, asked them specifically that if we conduct only one study from here, based on our phase 1 study results, would we be in a position to receive accelerated approval and or full approval from the FDA? And we were uh, encouraged by the response, the written responses that we received from the FDA that indicated that if we ran an adaptive, as we call it, phase 2/3 study involving about 210 patients, 140 of those would be on monopental, 70 of those would be on a placebo plus standard of care. If we ran that study for 24 weeks, we showed, rate of progression, a slowing down in the rate of progressions like we have in this study, then there's a high probability that we would receive accelerated approval. So that's the excitement for us. We're in a position now to get that study up and running within the next 6 months.
Right.
And then if all goes well, recruitment, and we're very confident that we can get that study, those 210 patients in the study within a short period of time, we could have a readout from the phase 2 component that entitles us to potentially get accelerated approval from the FDA at the back end of 2025. So this drug has the potential of being possibly available for patients in 2026. So a very short timeline, and something unique about rare diseases, and in particular, motor neurone disease or ALS, because the treatments that are currently available really don't serve the purpose. They have poor
Sure.
efficacy profiles, they have issues with safety, but they also have issues with how they're delivered. So some are IV formulations, some are given orally, some are given intrathecally. So we have a very easy to swallow pill,
Right.
and we are looking at developing a liquid formulation as well. And that liquid formulation will be particularly applicable to people that start to have difficulty in swallowing, which is one of the number of symptoms, but a very serious symptoms that
Sure.
a person with motor neurone disease has as they get closer, unfortunately, to the end of their life.
Right. Now, I want to get into the competitive analysis in a second, but before that,
Yep.
just think with the trials. So really, there's a 24-week period, 6
Yep.
months. Any type of interim analysis to where you would have a little early look?
So the interim analysis will be at the end of that 24-week. So
Okay.
yeah, and that's the reason why it's set up that way, is because that 24 weeks is the time period that the FDA wants to see. They're not interested in seeing analysis conducted at 12 weeks. They want that 24-week data for us to be in a position to receive that accelerated approval. And there's, in addition to monitoring the rate, how much we're slowing down the rate of progression, we also have to provide supplementary endpoints. And some of those supplementary endpoints are things like a neurofilament light chain. A neurofilament light chain is a protein. It's a degradation product, if you like, of giving you an indication of motor neuron damage. So the more neurofilament light chain you have in your blood, or the more in your cerebral spinal fluid, then that gives you a rough indication of the progression of your disease. So
Right.
we're able to monitor, and from our phase 1 results, we saw that every patient that we were able to measure neurofilament light chain in the cerebral spinal fluid before treatment, compare that to after treatment, we saw marked declines in that neurofilament light chain. So this is very good supporting evidence to the primary efficacy endpoint, which is ALS-FRS, the slowing down, the scale that they use to measure the slowing down or the rate of decline. That plus providing them with some biomarker data through the neurofilament light chain, which looks encouraging based on our phase 1 study results, we're in a very good position to receive accelerated approval from the FDA. If all goes well, we're able to repeat the results that we saw in our phase 1 study.
Absolutely. Now, trials, they do cost money. Can you just tell us approximately what do you think that this trial would cost?
Yeah, so to do the complete phase 2, phase 3 study in that 210 patients, we're talking between 20 to 30 million Australian dollars. And not a lot, no, not a lot given that,
multi-billion-dollar problem to solve.
Yeah, that's right. So, based on these phase 1 study results, we're extremely confident that we will be in a position to embark on that phase 2, raise the necessary capital. And there's a number of different options open to us. We fortunately have the ability to go to a not-for-profit organization here in Australia called Fight MND that funds research. We have the ability to put in an application to seek funding from there. It's $2 million still. It's a significant amount of money. And then obviously we're ASX listed. We have the ability to go back and raise additional capital. And all those options are being explored to raise that 20 to 30 million.
Right. Look, I want to talk about the competitive landscape that's out there right now. There is a company in North America, AMLX, I believe, AMLX. They have something similar. Just tell us a little bit about their market cap and how they're trying to solve the problem.
Yeah, so AMLX Pharmaceuticals, they were the last drug to receive approval for sporadic ALS or MND. So just to define that, so sporadic ALS MND makes up about 90% of the cases for motor neuron disease. The other 10% is genetic, familial in origin. So basically, there's 90% of the cases out there that they have no idea how it developed. Didn't come from a mutation, or if it did come from a mutation, it represents a very small proportion of the total population. So fortunately, the mechanism of action that we're targeting, autophagy, is present and inducible in every mammalian cell. So all we're doing is uplifting, inducing autophagy in neuronal cells that, as they degenerate, become somewhat dysfunctional. So using monopentyl, it's a very good tool to induce autophagy that then goes in and cleans up that toxic buildup of protein. That's why we're confident that we have application in other indications like Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease. What AMLX, their drug works not by autophagy. It's a combination treatment that works on totally different pathways, distinct from autophagy. Now, that product has received some good success in the first year after receiving accelerated approval. The company, it traded in the high, around $2 billion US. That was their market cap. And let's believe that it was on track to being a blockbuster in that first year, which is very, very uncommon to have in your first year of sales to be able to realize blockbuster status. But this particular product, because there is very few products in the marketplace, it was on track. So things were looking good. The first 2 quarters of 2023, the company was on track. It was doing over $200 million US for for the first 2 quarters. It was on track. It was treating 3,600 patients. They were hoping by the end of the year, because of that initial success in terms of the uptake of the drug, that it would be in about 10,000 patients by the end of 2023. Unfortunately, because of the side effects that's associated with Relyvrio, and also because the pill doesn't taste very nice, it has a very bitter aftertaste. Most of those 3,600 patients that were on the drug in the middle of 2023 discontinued, about 50%.
Okay.
So unfortunately, it's not going to make blockbuster status, but it provides us with a very, very nice data points to
Correct.
show that what the potential of monopental could be, particularly if we have a much better safety profile, but also if we have the ability to slow down motor neurone disease by that 50% that we saw in our phase 1 study. So very exciting times for the company. Yeah, can't wait to start the next phase 2/3 study.
Well, Michael, we can't either. We do have to keep it short there. This is such an exciting time. Any closing remarks for our audience?
The closing remarks would be that this is very promising results, particularly on safety. The data is looking strong from the point of view of survival. As I mentioned before, 12 patients, they're still alive today. They're still doing very well. We're hoping to make this product available to everyone within a very short period of time, and we're going to get there.
Great. Michael, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And we're absolutely watching with bated breath. Bye-bye.